So I'm Brad Hodge. I've been involved with a group of academics up at Bendigo creating a fairly innovative community engagement or rural community engagement subject. So this subject is a little bit different from the norm in that it's project focused, that there's a huge emphasis on getting students to work well together and intentionally together, and getting them to be really intentional about their contribution, both to the individual component, but also to the group work, so the way in which they work as a team. So the reason that we decided to use Teams is because we're acutely aware of how difficult it is to get students to work together and experience the benefit of working together. Students tend to work together reluctantly. And so they, we've all heard students complain about group work. And one of the reasons for that is that it's not experienced as being useful. That when we work in a team, it's actually the opposite to useful. Students often feel like it'll be easier just to do it for themselves. And so we've shifted the focus in this particular subject to really getting them to engage with that Teams process. And so we needed a platform that would enable that. Now, in all honesty, we had a timing issue where we didn't get access to students as early as we should. So we haven't got the uptake that we would have liked. But what Teams offered our students was the opportunity to collaborate with one another, but not just with one another, but to collaborate with the staff. So a big part of the philosophy of this subject is that, and we tell students this again and again, that you're actually working with academic staff members who are going to ask you questions and prompt you. And so it's a collaborative effort between the staff members and between the students. So Teams, the plan was or is to basically that students would work on things together. So they will work on shared documents, project plans. They get together outside of class time, and we've actually got them reporting back and saying, yep, we're arranging meetings via Zoom and things like that outside of class time to develop their projects. And they create they use shared documents to develop those. Now, we've got assessment tasks where they're identifying what their contribution to the teamwork process is. So they're actually thinking about, okay, how do I contribute to this? And they're being quite active in that. So having a platform that enables them to communicate with one another around the document, like Teams does, is really, really useful. Also, the format of communication in Teams is really useful for students because they can have an asynchronous conversation that somebody else can catch up on. And certainly as a team, the team up here in rural health, we use this a lot. And so you can jump out of that Microsoft Teams environment for a couple of days and come back in and catch up on it. You don't have to go through all of the CCs. And so students are using it in the same way. So shared documents are absolutely key. While the meeting function, so the video conferencing function in Teams is great for meetings, we are not using it, and I would argue that I can't use it to run workshops with students because it will only show 4, although it's just about to jump up to 9 faces per screen, and that's, I would argue, really problematic if you're actually trying to engage with all of your students and you can't see half of their faces. Having said that, the integration between Teams and Zoom is pretty strong anyway. So when we roll this out for next year, we will put all of our workshop sessions in the calendar in Teams, and so those links will all be there. Probably the final thing that I can think of now, the reason that Teams works quite well is because it pulls all of that collaboration into the one space under the watchful eye of the staff member, of the academic. So the intention is that we have a fairly high level involvement. We're giving students feedback on things before they submit them. So they're actually taking that feedback away and applying it before they submit it for assessment. So there's a really strong emphasis on working with the students to develop really good quality work. Now, if we were operating via email, we could certainly do that, but it's a lot clunkier. Whereas when we can do that on something like Teams, we can drop into their conversations, we can drop into their their group work or things like that, and go, have you thought about this? And they can also kind of ping us by posting, by going at Brad Hodge, and that will highlight something, and they can ask me a question. So for us, those interactions are absolutely central to getting students to do something that's inherently quite complicated. These are first year students. We're getting them to do community engagement projects, stuff that they've never done before. Teams is all about collaboration. I think the LMS holds content reasonably well. I'm not pushing across to post content in Teams. I know it will do that, and there are some conversations around that, and I might change my mind, but at the moment, we work together in teams. We draw on resources in the LMS, and that has worked really well for us. If you want students to work on a platform that they haven't worked on before, you need to integrate that into the process that you're drawing the students through. So part of your first tutorial is about downloading Teams. It's about engaging in Teams, and setting that expectation. It's saying, okay, now I want all of the teams before next week to set up their shared document, to tag me in something that they want to ask questions about. So you're actually driving the process, because otherwise students will fall to the default, which is generally Google Docs, and you get no insight as to what's going on, and you don't have the opportunity to collaborate. And they can run all of this on their phone. So it doesn't have the clunkiness associated with the chat forum in the LMS. It runs beautifully on the app, and that's a real advantage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to rolling it out properly, but certainly the feedback we've had so far has been fairly positive, and it looks like the plan that was set out was certainly heading in the right direction.